season premiere of 60 Minutes. Anybody see it? Okay. Well, there was an interview, 60 Minutes, about a 13-minute interview with Deion Sanders. Oh. Coach Deion Sanders, also called lovingly Coach Prime, a name that I think he gave to himself, I'm not sure. But, he can back it up, right? And the interviewer described Coach Prime as somebody who is shaking the sport like a snow globe, shaking up college football like a snow globe. Now, shortly into the program, there was a side interview with a gentleman by the name of Rick George. And Rick George is the athletic director at Colorado University. And he's been there for 10 years. And Rick George said that they hired Sanders to bring the program back to relevancy. To bring the program back to relevancy. And the interviewer said, well, is it fair to say that this is a bit of a Hail Mary? But Rick George was very quick to come back and say, it wasn't a Hail Mary. It was a moment in time for our university and our athletic department that we were either going to be relevant or we were going to be irrelevant. It was a defining moment in time where they were either going to be relevant or irrelevant, and they decided to be relevant. Now, that's what Rick George says. If you listen to Deion Sanders, he says no. Well, he didn't say no, but he said, God called me there. And it just wouldn't make any sense if God had called me to a successful program, now would it? But God would call me to a place that is difficult. Okay, so I feel like he learned something from Jonah's story. You know Jonah, the moaner? Yeah, who complained and grumbled about where God was sending him. But Deion Sanders knew that it was a call from God and that it would not be a walk in the park. So he says he was called by God. He learned from Jonah's story. Now, do you think that he's brought relevancy back to the program? Here's a few indicators of effectiveness. Okay, the merchandise sales have gone up by 819%. Their Instagram posts have increased tenfold, and the season tickets are now sold out. Do you think they achieved their goal of making the program relevant? I do too. Now tell me something. Going back to today's story, is generosity relevant? I want you to think about it. I want you to think about a time that you were the recipient of generosity. And how did that make you feel? Did it make you think, wow, somebody did that for me? Somebody spent that time with me? Somebody took that time out of their calendar and gave it to me? It's humbling, okay? Now, think about a time that you gave generosity. And what did that feel like? Was it good? A good feeling when you're generous and you give your time or your other resources? And sometimes you can look back and say, wow, the payoff for giving that away was so much more than if I'd kept it to myself. And look how it changed somebody's day, changed the direction of their day or even their life. Today's gospel text is about generosity. Generosity and opportunity, Okay, because the landowner didn't just go out one time. Did you count how many times he went out? 5 times he went out. He went out early in the morning. He went out again at 9 o'clock. He went out at noon. He went out at 3, and he went out at 5. Each time giving opportunity to able-bodied laborers. So he was generous in opportunity and also generous in giving at the end of the parable. Each time the landowner went out, there were people standing around, right? They were idle. Idle is the word that's used across so many translations. King James Version, New Revised Standard Version, Common English Bible. They were idle program that had made a community because we're in a. And as part of my assignment was to give generous opportunity to those idle people who were standing around. But he was also generous in giving. Remember, the first ones were called back with the last ones. But they weren't paid first. Remember, they were all standing there watching when the last laborers got paid the same wage